The withdrawal began with no warning. One by one, human embassies in the major worlds of the Galactic Council shut their doors. The diplomats, usually so confident, so sharp with their words, quietly packed their belongings and boarded ships home. There were no formal farewells, no official statements, just a quiet exodus. In the vast hall of species, whispers spread like an infection. Perhaps they are angry with our new trade tariffs. Maybe they cannot afford to keep their fleets here. Or, perhaps they are finally realizing they are small among the stars. The council allowed the rumors to ferment. After all, humanity's sudden silence was convenient, less interference in council politics. The humans had always been unpredictable, unwilling to yield entirely to the council's will. Without them, things would be easier. By the end of the month, the human sectors on council worlds were ghost towns. Earth's communication relays went dark. Its colonies stopped responding to traffic control beacons. And then, they were simply gone. The council didn't care, at first. But 2 months later, a team of xenoarchaeologists petitioned for an excavation beneath the frozen crust of Antarctica. The request raised no alarms. Humans had signed over much of their planetary archaeological rights to the council decades ago. The lead scientist, a thin-skinned Iskari named Dral Vorn, reported an anomalous energy reading unlike anything in the archives. It was deep, so deep that no human had ever dug to it. Buried before the ice, before the seas, before, perhaps even before humanity itself, he said. The council chancellor approved the dig. Beneath miles of ancient ice and stone, they found it, a vast obsidian monolith, pulsing faintly with golden lines like veins in black marble. It was massive, 30 stories tall, buried in a hollow chamber as if the earth itself had grown around it. On the surface of the monolith was a single, circular depression. A button. The humans had left one warning in the council's archives, long ago, buried in a clause that most ignored. Under no circumstances is the artifact beneath southern ice to be interacted with, studied, moved, or activated. Ever. There was no explanation, no coordinates, no description. Just that one, absolute condition. The council saw it as arrogance. Humanity was gone now, why should their rules matter? The chancellor called for a private meeting of the high table. It could be a dormant power core, one strategist suggested. Or a gateway. Perhaps a weapon, another said. Or perhaps it is a bluff, the chancellor replied. Something they invented to appear dangerous. We cannot let them dictate what we may or may not touch on a council world. They voted. The button would be pressed. The team gathered in the icy chamber, breath misting in the frigid air. The council's chief engineer, a four-armed Tovari named Kreln, approached the monolith with a scanner. No defenses, he reported. The material is unreadable, but I detect no active field. The depression is mechanical, traceable. The chancellor's voice came over the comlink. Do it. Kreln hesitated. And if it? Do it, the chancellor repeated. The engineer's lower right hand pressed the circle. There was a sound, not quite audible, but felt in the bones. A low vibration, ancient and hungry, thrummed through the air. The monolith's golden veins flared, blazing with light. The ice around the chamber cracked like glass. Far above, in orbit, council satellites went blind one after another. Systems failed without explanation. Across the planet, every dormant human facility, mothballed bases, abandoned research stations, empty colonies, came alive. And then, the sky tore open. The first ship emerged from nothing, black as the void, longer than the tallest megastructures, bristling with strange spines. More followed, slipping into existence without hyperspace trails, without detectable mass signatures until they were there, blotting out the stars. They were not like human ships the council had catalogued. These were older, sleeker, predatory, with hulls that shimmered faintly as if reality itself bent around them. The council fleet in Earth orbit scrambled to form a defensive perimeter. They broadcast hails, warnings, demands. The black ships did not answer. Instead, they moved into precise formation, surrounding the planet like a cage. Then, a single transmission was received on every frequency, in every council tongue, in a voice that was both human and something far older. Containment breach confirmed. The sleeper protocol is active. Stand clear or be purged. In the Hall of Species, panic erupted. The Chancellor demanded explanations. No one had them. Military strategists tried to calculate odds, yet their simulations failed, glitching into unreadable error codes when modeling the Black Fleet's capabilities. Reports flooded in, Council colonies near Sol were being cut off. Stargates destabilized. Entire fleets went missing mid-transit. Finally, one human voice returned, not from Earth, but from somewhere far beyond mapped space. It was Admiral Cale Sorensen, last known commander of the Terran Defense Navy. His face was shadowed, his tone devoid of warmth. "We left because you were getting curious," he said. "We left because the lock was failing. That thing beneath your feet is older than your species, older than ours. It is not a weapon, it is a prison. We stayed on Earth to guard it." He leaned forward. "And now, you've opened the door." What emerged from the ice was not a machine. The monolith cracked, unfolding like a blooming flower of obsidian petals. Inside was a sphere of shifting darkness, shot through with impossible colors that hurt to look at. It pulsed once, and every living thing within 10 kilometers simply stopped moving, frozen mid-breath. The Black Fleet fired, not at the Council, but at the sphere, bathing it in streams of light so bright they burned shadows into the ice. Sorensen's voice returned over combs. "You have no idea what you've unleashed. The fleet you see is only the first wave of containment units. If they fail, it will spread, mind to mind, star to star. We've seen it happen before." His eyes were grim. "The last galaxy we lived in didn't survive. The Council begged for aid, for forgiveness. Sorensen didn't answer. The black ships kept firing, and the sphere kept pulsing. And somewhere in the deep, beyond the range of any sensor, something answered. The war for reality had begun because the Council pressed the one button they should never have pressed. The decision to leave came in whispers, in sealed orders, and in sudden departures that made no sense to anyone watching. First, the human representatives left the Council chambers, offering no explanation beyond polite formalities. Then the Terran fleets began withdrawing from joint patrols, their carriers vanishing into hyperspace without even waiting for replacements to arrive. Within weeks, every human-controlled relay station was shut down, and the vast network of listening posts along the borders went dark. No threats. No ultimatums. No public announcement. Just a calculated, complete retreat. For the galaxy, it was both baffling and insulting. The Galactic Council had always considered humanity a strange ally. They were newer to the interstellar stage, yet their ships were faster than they should be, their weapons systems more refined than their supposed tech level suggested. They contributed generously to defense efforts but refused to share critical designs. And then, without reason, they were gone. The Chancellor of the Council, Terran of the Eovast Dominion, viewed it as a personal insult. "They believe they can turn their backs on us without consequence?" Terran hissed in the chamber. "This cannot stand. We must compel them to return to compliance." The idea of compelling humanity sparked debate. Some urged caution, recalling that human fleets had defeated entire pirate confederations alone. Others claimed the humans relied too heavily on alliances to survive. But then the Intelligence Bureau made its report. Hidden deep in the Council's defense coordination systems was a sealed human protocol, a secure command code that, in theory, gave the Council the ability to override all Terran military AI in the event of a coup or betrayal. It had been part of the membership agreement when humanity first joined. It was called the Dead Switch. The document was simple, a single command key, encrypted at such a level that no other Council member had managed to duplicate it. It was supposedly a safeguard against rogue human warships, meant to shut down their fleets instantly if they turned hostile. At least, that was the assumption. Tehran saw an opportunity. "If they refuse to rejoin the Council," the Chancellor said, "then we activate the dead switch and make them listen." Several voices objected. "We do not fully understand their systems. They have hidden protocols, hidden technologies. And they are arrogant enough to walk away from us, Terran snapped. They think themselves untouchable. We will show them otherwise. The vote passed by the slimmest of margins. The activation took place in the secure defense chamber aboard the Council's central station. A tall, pale-skinned Ivori technician inserted the physical command crystal into the console. Lines of alien code flashed across the display as the dead switch signal propagated across the Council's vast communication network, racing toward the Sol system and every human fleet registry. All units will be forced to stand down immediately, the technician reported. Command authorization in 3, 2, 1. The lights went out. Not just in the chamber, across the entire station. Emergency backup systems kicked in, bathing the room in blood-red light. Status displays overloaded with static. One by one, long-range communications relays reported total failure. And then the first strange readings appeared on the defense network. Dozens, hundreds, thousands of massive objects emerging from deep space coordinates far beyond any map system. They were moving at impossible velocities, each one broadcasting a single, cold identifier, TDF asset active. At first, no one understood. Then the oldest among them, Admiral Korosath of the VYR Coalition, spoke in a low voice. This is not a shutdown order. This is a summoning. The dead switch hadn't been a council control over humanity, it had been humanity's control over the council. For decades, the Terran Defense Force had maintained a fleet that did not appear in any registry, a fleet stationed in the deep void between galaxies. No one knew what they were for, and no one suspected their size. Now, they were coming home. The first black shapes arrived in orbit over the Council's core worlds within hours. Vast supercarriers, each flanked by swarms of escort ships, appeared without hyperspace signatures. Their hulls were matte and angular, absorbing sensor pings without reflection. They made no hostile moves. They didn't have to. The Chancellor demanded an explanation, broadcasting a priority hail. Only one human face appeared, Admiral Helena Voss, her uniform unmarked, her expression unreadable. You activated a system you do not understand, she said coldly. The dead switch is not for you. It is for us, to protect against you. Terran's spines bristled. You will stand down. This is a council matter. This is a council matter, Voss interrupted. And the council just declared itself an enemy of the Terran people. As she spoke, the Black Fleet moved not toward the council's defenses, but toward every council-operated network hub. Planetary defense grids flickered and went silent. Stargates locked into permanent quarantine mode. AI cores shut themselves down. Voss continued. When we joined you, we knew one day you would try to control us. The dead switch was our answer. You thought it was a leash. It was a beacon. And now, the assets you have summoned will not return to their posts until humanity is secure, by any means necessary. Her gaze sharpened. Do not interfere. The transmission ended. By the next day, the Terran Black Fleet occupied every major council world. They didn't destroy anything, they didn't need to. Every critical system was under human encryption, unbreakable, untouchable. Council fleets were left stranded without resupply, their ships locked out of docking systems. Attempts to mount resistance failed instantly. Ships that powered weapons found their targeting arrays overwritten. Warheads disarmed themselves in mid-flight. It was a bloodless conquest, but a conquest nonetheless. And through it all, humanity said nothing more. In the weeks that followed, rumors began to spread. Some claimed the Black Fleet was automated, controlled by an AI older than humanity itself. Others whispered that they were crewed by soldiers who had never been seen by outsiders, warriors bred in secret, trained for a war no one else knew existed. But the truth was simpler, and far more dangerous. The dead switch had never been a threat to the galaxy. It had been a promise to humanity itself that if their independence was ever compromised, no law, no treaty, no power in the galaxy could stop their response. The Council had pressed the one button they should never have pressed, and in doing so, they had reminded everyone of a dangerous truth. Humanity didn't just plan for war. They planned for victory. It began as a routine voting session in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council. Delegates drifted in, their hover platforms gliding across polished marble floors that reflected the shifting light of the chamber's great crystal dome. But one seat, one that had been occupied for nearly a century, remained empty. The human delegation was gone. They had left without fanfare. No final speeches, no farewell ceremonies. Even their diplomatic archives on council networks had been wiped clean. For most species, it was a mystery. For some, it was a relief. Humanity had always been an unpredictable element, brilliant engineers, cunning traders, devastating warriors when provoked. But they never gave everything. They always kept something back. Now, they had withdrawn entirely, retreating to their home systems, closing their stargates, shutting down communication relays. No trade shipments. No military patrols. No contact at all. And in their absence, the galaxy breathed easier. 6 months later, during a budget session, the matter of the archive protocol arose. It was buried deep in the Council's emergency infrastructure, a secured command system accessible only to full member species. It was said to be a shared failsafe, a way to preserve vital data if the Council's central AI ever failed. The humans had been the primary architects of the system. They had insisted on installing its core modules personally, and they had been oddly strict about its conditions of use. The treaty clause was clear: the archive protocol is never to be activated without unanimous consent of all members, including humanity. But humanity was no longer present. Chancellor Viral of the Athari Dominion tapped the table with a clawed finger. The humans are gone. Their veto no longer applies. We should access the archive, there could be valuable research locked away. Several voices agreed. Others hesitated. Councillor Shess of the Corvan tilted her head. They made it sound dangerous. They warned us it was not a library, but a clock. Viral scoffed. Superstition. At worst, we find encrypted junk. At best, we uncover technologies they refuse to share. And so, the vote passed. The activation chamber was deep within the Council's primary station, a secure vault shielded from both physical and digital intrusion. Technicians inserted crystal and data keys into a ring of pedestals. One by one, the keys lit up, sending streams of golden code into the air. At the center of the chamber stood the archive core, an angular, obsidian device, pulsing faintly with a rhythm almost like a heartbeat. The chief systems officer, a pale-skinned Avorii named Mecht, began the final sequence. Unsealing archive protocol in 3, 2, 1. The pulse stopped. Then it flared brighter than the sun. Across the galaxy, dormant human facilities came alive. Old research stations, abandoned colonies, sealed shipyards, all powered up at once. Stargates in human territory reopened, but not for travel. Instead, they began transmitting encrypted bursts toward deep space. In the void beyond the spiral arm, massive structures stirred, orbital foundries the size of moons, their forges glowing as they awoke from decades of silence. Entire fleets emerged from hidden dark space hangars, their hulls marked with the Terran defense insignia, each one broadcasting the same message on every frequency. Phase 1 complete. Stand by for deployment. In the Grand Hall, panic erupted. What is happening? Viral demanded. What did we activate? An answer came, not from any council world, but from a location on the far rim. A human face appeared on the central display, scarred and weathered, wearing the simple black of a Terran officer. I am Commander Elias Ward, the man said. You have accessed the archive protocol. This is a timed contingency plan initiated centuries ago, long before we joined your council. Viral leaned forward. Contingency for what? Ward's expression didn't change. The end. He explained, in precise, measured tones. Long before the Council existed, humanity had encountered something in deep space, an expansion wave of destruction, devouring worlds, erasing entire civilizations. They had fought it, and they had slowed it, but they could not destroy it. Instead, they built a plan, a vast, hidden war machine that would only awaken when the archive protocol was triggered. The archive wasn't a storehouse of knowledge. It was a countdown, synchronized to the projected return of the threat. We joined the council to hide in plain sight, Ward said. To buy time. To keep the galaxy stable until the cycle was ready to begin again. And you left us, Shess whispered. We didn't leave you, Ward replied. We left to prepare. The clock was almost at 0. As Ward spoke, live feeds showed the full scope of the awakening. In human space, entire shipyards were assembling vessels of designs no one in the council had ever seen: colossal carriers, spiked with railguns the size of mountains, stealth corvettes shaped like shards of night, automated siege drones by the millions. Near the galactic rim, vast shield arrays unfurled, forming a barrier line in the path of something. Sensors failed to read it, as though space itself rejected the data. But its shape loomed a shadow wider than star systems, rippling with colors that hurt to look at. This is why we told you never to activate the protocol prematurely, Ward said. It starts the final phase. We have days now, not months. Viral's voice shook. Can we stop it? Ward's eyes were cold. No. But we can fight. The council scrambled to respond, but the truth was plain: they had nothing to match what humanity had built. Every council warship combined could not equal the firepower of even one of the newly awakened Terran dreadnoughts. And yet, the humans did not aim their weapons at the council. Instead, they sent coordinates, rally points, and orders: cold, efficient instructions for those who wished to survive. Some obeyed. Others resisted, unwilling to bend to human command. But resistance didn't matter. The shadow was coming, and when it arrived, it would not care about pride. The last broadcast from Ward before the channels went silent was simple. You've pressed the one button you should never have pressed. Now you will see what it was for. Stand in the line, or die behind it. And then the feed cut, replaced by a single countdown: 3 days, 16 hours, 22 minutes. The archive protocol was no longer a mystery. It was a summons to war. And the galaxy had just run out of time.